Okay, how are you doing today? So, this is our first lesson after the test, and I'm recording this before you guys have taken the test, so I'm not really sure what the results are. What I can tell you is this. um, we're walking a fine line. We're doing really well on quizzes, so I'm confident that the results on the test are going to be very good, at least in the 80s. Honestly, I feel they're probably going to be a little bit higher than that. Now, um, I don't want to cover too much too fast. I want to really concentrate on building a firm foundation. It was explained to me with this course that that's the purpose of the course. The purpose of the course is not to race ahead and try to establish math majors here per se. It's to build up a foundation and to make sure that you're very comfortable and very good at what you're doing, so that when you encounter math in your classes, you're comfortable with what you're doing. It doesn't give you a hard time. So to that end, I think we've done a good job covering the really important stuff that we're supposed to cover. And what we're going to do now, some of that stuff was pretty easy. We're going to segue now into a little bit more of what we've already covered, but the stuff that you might need to see a second time to really be sure of. So that's what we're going to do this week and next, and then we'll be looking at another test after that. So it's really not new material. I don't have to teach you anything new. What we're going to do is just a lot of work on stuff we've already seen, and I will present it again to for those who might not understand it, hopefully get a better view of it the second time around. Okay, so we're on chapter 2 still, and this is the part 2, the part where we go back and strengthen anything that might not be as strong as you want it to be. I'm building what I'm calling a barrage. It's a barn garage. I should put some pictures of it up next week. And if you see the inside of this thing, where all the structure is, you can see how solid it is. And I don't want to jinx it, but it would take like a tornado to knock this thing over, and it still might stand because it's made so well. And that's what we're trying to do for you in this course. We're trying to make your foundation so strong, and your structure, your edifice, on such a great foundation that anything you encounter from here forward, you're very comfortable with. Okay? All right. So, the theme colors for this particular series of slideshows will be green, so I figured I would reminisce for just a second and show you a picture of Gaspé. This is the Dartmouth River in Gaspé. It's a beautiful river, and there's lots of green there, like there's lots of green in these pictures. That's my buddy Eric fishing right there. Okay, so what is our emphasis going to be on the next couple of weeks? Well, between now and test 2, our points of emphasis are going to be multi-step linear equations, no more of the easier ones, literal equations, one-step percent problems, two-step percent problems, number problems. We'll do more of those next week. This week I don't have those set. This week we're going to do a lot of geometry word problems. Okay? All right. So let's get started again. This is going to be a lot of stop and start for us. So here are 3 multi-step equations. Just do the first one, and do stop and start every time we get you going on one, okay? All right. So, sorry about that. There's Gibbs barking. 2 of our other dogs are playing outside, and Gibbs likes to hear himself. So, he was named after the Leroy Jethro Gibbs on NCIS, and Gibbs is a pretty quiet character. The name doesn't fit. All right. So, this is, you take a look at it and you say, well, is this a same side, same operation situation, or an opposite side, opposite operation? Clearly, it is an opposite side, opposite operation situation, so that's what we do here. Subtract 2 ends. Always start with the smallest number of ends. Subtract 2 ends from both sides. That gives me 3n minus 8 is equal to 40. Now we got opposite side with the numbers, so I add 8 to both sides. 3n is 48, dividing by 3, and I get n is 16. So at this point, I hope that's a very comfortable equation for you. I've been looking at your homeworks when you submit them. I don't spend hours and hours and hours on your homeworks, but I look them over. Every single kid that sends them in, every student that sends them in, I look them over and I want to see if there's any common mistakes. And my impressions of how you guys as a class are handling the equations is that you're doing quite well with them. Okay, now number 2 is similar to number 1, except that we have a distribute we have to do first. We have to multiply the 7 times the v and the 7 times the 3. So doing that, I get 7v plus 21. And now it looks exactly like number 1. And the strategy or the process, the procedure is exactly like number 1. This is opposite side, opposite operation situation. I subtract the 3v's. And then 4v plus 21 is negative 15. I subtract the 21 from both sides, and I get 4v is negative 36. Dividing by 4, and I get v is negative 9. So again, this is the second type that you're likely to see a lot of problems in which you need to distribute. Okay, number 3, a little stop and start action here. Go ahead. All right, so we need to distribute first. We just went over that. That's 3b plus 9 plus b minus 1 equals 2b minus 2. Now I need to do a same side, same operation on the left. So 3b's and 1b are 4b's plus 8, because the 9 and the negative 1 can be combined. Remember, we're always peeking in front to see what it is. This 1 is a negative. So it's a 9 positive, 1 negative, add those up and get positive 8. Now it looks like an opposite side, opposite operation. So I subtract 2b's from both sides, always starting with the smaller number of b's. 2b plus 8 is negative 2. Subtracting 8 from both sides, I get 2b is negative 10. Dividing by 2, and I get b is negative 5. So those are 3 very good multi-step equations. Okay, so as I'm sitting here, one type of question that I haven't given you too much on the homework, a little bit, and I haven't seen the test results yet, where I think there might be one of these fractional equations on it, are these fractional equations, and I'm really not sure how you're doing on these. So we need to work these through and develop a very good strategy for doing them. Okay. All right. When you see fractional equations like these, you have a new step to start, and then you do the same exact thing that you've done on these. So it's just a matter of adding a preliminary step. And then once you add the preliminary step, these multi-step equation skills that you have here will solve anything you have left. So here are 2 fractional equations, and you can see on the right hand side I put the strategy down. It says identify the least common denominator or a common denominator of any sort, and you can use any common denominator, but the least makes it easier. Okay, if you're struggling with least common denominators, and some kids do, then you can just say I'm going to multiply all the denominators. In the first case, you could do 2 times 8 is 16. There is a common denominator. A least common denominator is 8, but 16 will work. And I actually take these through with a larger than normal common denominator when I review them in a couple of minutes. For the next one, what we're going to get over there is we are going to, the least common denominator is 24, but I think I'm actually going to end up using 48, 8 times 6. All right. So in the first one, the least common denominator is 8. So here's our strategy. Multiply absolutely everything in this fractional equation by 8. So, and let me just put in the denominators. I take the first fraction, x plus 2 over 2, I multiply it by 8. I take the next fraction, x plus 4 over 8, I multiply it by 8. And then I take the 9 and I multiply by 8. Remember, if I do the same thing to both sides, the scale stays balanced. That's a picture of the equation being in equilibrium, and equilibrium is correctness. All right, now I don't have a pen to mark this up, but I'll just explain it to you, and I think you can follow along. When I do the division, I just need to divide by the number on the outside. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. That's where the 4 comes from here. Don't forget your parentheses symbols in here because the 8's being multiplied by everything. Here, 8 divided by 8 is 1, so I put the 1 down there, and 9 times 8 is 72. And now, do you see? This looks like the multi-step equations that we were doing on the other slide that we just finished. So the really cool thing here is we took this ugly, awful fractional thing that gives most kids the heebie-jeebies, and they're like, back Satan, and we've turned it into a normal multi-step equation, which from what I've been looking at your homework, you're very good at. All right. Distributing the 4, I get 4x plus 8, and I just wrote down distributing the 1. I still get x plus 4. And now it's the same side, same operation, so I'm going to get 5x plus 12 is 72. Subtract 12 from both sides. 5x is 60. Divide by 5, x is 12. And that's your correct answer there. Okay? So that was more of a teaching one. Let's have you do stop and start on the next one. Go ahead. All right. So, I know the least common denominator on this guy is 24. But if you're comfortable with least common denominators and use that, A, you'll get the same exact answer. You better. Otherwise, the math doesn't have much validity. But I want to show you a way for those who are having a hard time with getting common denominators that always works. And namely, you can multiply the two denominators, and 6 times 8 is 48. Okay, so now, just like before, I multiplied everything by 8. Now I'm going to multiply everything by 48. Don't forget denominators. Now, 48 divided by 6 is 8. 48 divided by 8 is 6. And now I have the step that looks like a standard multi-step equation. Now, I want you to keep in mind that these fractional equations are very difficult to always make come out correctly. So sometimes I got these from internet sites. Sometimes they don't come out clean. That's just part of the thing with fractional equations, but that's all right. I just check my answer and make sure that it checks when all said and done. All right, so distributing 8 times 4x, 32x, minus 8 times 2 is 16, and 6 times 4x is 24x, 6 times negative 4 is negative 24, and 9 times 48 is 432. Same side, same operation. 32x's, 24x's is 56x's, and 16 negatives and 24 other negatives is a total of 40 negatives. Add 40 to both sides, and I get 56x is equal to 472. Dividing by 56, and I get 59 over 7. And let me tell you something. When I did this question, man, oh man, did I go back and redo it a whole bunch of times looking for an error that I have made. First off, I did this slide probably at about midnight on a Saturday night. What kind of life do I have? And I just couldn't believe this is what the answer worked out to, but it did, and I wasn't going to not use the slide anymore. All right, so far we've done multi-step equations and we've done fractional equations. That's enough for the first video.